always do that. I'm a night rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.
What is going on, bookworms, and welcome back to another edition of Bookmarks with Bump. Today, this Sunday morning, it is December 14th. We are 11 days away from Christmas. The holiday season is hitting, and it's hitting hard. It's hitting like a Mack truck, and nothing says Merry Christmas like getting fired from your job for cheating on your wife, allegedly. All of this will come out in the next few days here, but what we're dealing with today on December 11th is a massive scandal in Michigan. Michigan, who has been through its spate of scandals over the last few years, leading all the way back to Jim Harbaugh, him leaving Michigan and going to Los Angeles and leaving the interim coach behind. Sharon Moore, who stepped in for Jim Harbaugh when Jim Harbaugh was suspended 2 seasons ago. All of his signs, everything that you were worried about, came to fruition here Tuesday night, December the 10th, when he was fired from Michigan with cause. So he will not be paid like most coaches who get fired for poor performance. This coach was performing just outside of his regular bedroom, and he got caught and he got fired for it. Turns out he went on an absolute rampage after, and he found himself in protective custody. And T's and P's to the Moore family. That is a wife who is mourning the loss of the husband she thought she had. Sad story. But Michigan is in shambles, and they have a guy going around, Taylor Lewan, kind of running PR for Michigan, which is not a great idea, because if you look up Taylor Lewan, Michigan, you're not going to find a lot of great stuff. And that's why we talk about the NFL here, because sometimes college football can just be so messy. And we had a pretty messy week on the NFL slate last week. Last week, we went 6-8. I will be completely transparent here. That was my worst performance of the year so far. I go 6-8, and we advanced to 84-49 on the season. So we're still looking at about a 750 average on the season, but a week like that, it doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth. And so this week, stick around for the picks, because we're going to get just that much better. We gotta finish the season strong here, like many of these teams, including the teams that started and ended week 14. Some divisions are heating up, but week 14 was bookended by NFC East misery. The Dallas Cowboys were squashed by the Lions and trampled by Jahmyr Gibbs, who exploded with his touches for 120 total yards and 3 touchdowns, seemingly stomping all over the Cowboys' playoff hopes. That was until the Commanders got shut out by the Vikings. Their defense, the Commanders that is, allowed J.J. McCarthy to look surgical, throwing for 3 touchdowns. Zach Ertz is off for surgery after tearing his ACL, and then on Monday night, the Eagles laid an overtime egg. This has to be their rock bottom offensive performance, because Saquon goes for 120 on the ground. A.J. Brown goes for 100 yards, but still the Chargers edge out the Eagles in this somewhat historic game where Jalen Hurts became the first player since 1978 to throw an interception and fumble during the same play. 4 picks and 1 fumble is the absolute recipe to losing a game. You have a 100-yard lead in yardage. 7 sacks, they still find a way to lose, and technically there is a path for them to lose not only this game, but the division. They're sitting right there with the Cowboys as far as losses go. The Cowboys have that tie on their record, which might make it harder for them. But if the Eagles lose out, say we live in a world where the Eagles lose out the rest of the season and the Cowboys win out for the rest of the season, they could win the NFC East and take that division home. We move on to the NFC West, where the Seattle Seahawks made a big acquisition, landing Rashid Shaheed while New Orleans was having a fire sale. His 100-yard kickoff return helped propel this team to a 37-9 scrubbing of the Atlanta Falcons, who play tonight. Meanwhile, the Rams handled another flock of birds inside the NFC West, pummeling the Cardinals 45-17. Blake Corum, Michigan man, in his second season, ran to a tune of 128 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Stafford found 3 touchdowns through the air. And this offense got some great practice. Trying to win the division, they're neck and neck here with Seattle, while the 49ers had a bye week. I don't see the 49ers bursting through to the top of the division here. This is going to be between the Seahawks and the Rams. Both those teams more than likely will make it into the playoffs, but only time will tell. And while the West has been hot all season in the NFC, the AFC East is just heating up, baby. 2 big win streaks here in the AFC East. The Patriots are on bye after winning their 10th in a row, and Miami just won their 4th in a row. The Dolphins ran the ball 41 times against the Jets. They scored 3 touchdowns on the ground, while Tua and Waddle connected for a touchdown as well, handling the New York Jets a 34-10 loss and looking like a completely different team at 6-7 as opposed to where they were 6 or 7 weeks ago. A team that's been battling all season, however, battled in the snow on Sunday. The Bengals dragged the Bills all the way into the jungle from the tundra. Sitting at 28-18 with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the flip then switched for Josh Allen. Josh Allen breaks off on an MVP-like 40-yard run to score and cuts the lead to just 3 when Joe Burrow would throw an interception on the next drive that Christian Benford took all the way to the house to take a 3-point lead. Joe Burrow's next pass, a pick that would eventually lead to the dagger and the end of a 21-point swing in one of the last games to ever be played in Orchard Park, and it was a true game winner. This environment here, this special Bills, what the Bills bring when they play at home is this special raucous environment where a game in September feels just like a playoff game, but a game in the snow feels that much more special in Buffalo. It was a true game-winning push that separates the rest of the teams from the pack, and the ability to make the play needed at the perfect moment is exactly what makes the Bills dangerous, and it's also what makes the Packers and their defense dangerous. Keyshawn Nixon, he's a famed kick returner in Green Bay. He made a game-sealing interception with 27 seconds left. On a 4th-1 play where their defense is backed up against their end zone, the Bears were driving and ready to tie the game. Not today. Keyshawn Nixon playing in the secondary. Micah Parsons putting pressure on the quarterback. Although he didn't get a sack in this game, his presence was felt. The guy gets held on almost every play. You got to feel bad for Micah at some points. It's like, what can this guy actually be able to do? Well, they're winning, and I think that's all that matters. Another thing that matters here for this Green Bay team is Christian Watson growing into the receiver we'd first hoped he would be. He caught 4 passes in this game for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. Half of his passes that he caught in that game were touchdowns, that's mightily impressive, and it helped Green Bay take the NFC North lead with this 28-21 win. The AFC North, however, is an ugly race between 2 flailing teams. The Steelers have 0 run game, apparently, and the Ravens have no pressure against opposing quarterbacks, which puts way too much pressure on their secondary, who's been hurt all season. DK Metcalf was able to expose this in this game, catching 4 deep balls, 7 total for 148 yards. Aaron Rodgers would run one in as Lamar would turn one over, and the Steelers would win a gritty game to stay atop the division in perfect timing. Which leads me to the AFC South, probably the hottest division in football. It started with a thriller in Cleveland, perfect timing, another snow game that saw the South topple the elements. And 2 teams figure out some things here, okay? The Browns, for one, figured out they have a quarterback. They named Shedeur Sanders the starter as he impressed the world, throwing for 364 yards and 3 touchdowns while avoiding pressure and Cam Ward shit talk. The Titans, however, found a run game, pushing Tony Pollard for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns, getting their 2nd win of the season. The Texans, they toppled the West this week by draining any hope of an offense out of the Chiefs, sending them into a pit of despair at this point, and now into the pit of the division. The Texans and their defense look to stifle any team, no matter what stadium, no matter what state they go and play in. Their defense comes to play every single week, and that is a dangerous weapon. You have Indianapolis visiting Jacksonville and losing their 11th straight time on the Jaguars' turf. Unfortunately, in this game, they also lost their quarterback, Daniel Jones, who was playing on one broken leg, tore the Achilles on the other leg, which is That's an injury you can't play through. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne combined for 4 touchdowns, and they push their offense, and their defense is really good over there in Jacksonville as well. I think that's something that's not talked about as much because of the offensive firepower they have. But you have the Texans creeping into second, while the Jaguars take over first in the AFC South. We have a lot of movement going on there. As the West in KC fell, it rises in Denver. Denver propels himself ahead of the Raiders and sit atop at 11-2. Bo Nix went 31 for 38 and proves to be efficient week in and week out, while the Broncos' offensive and defensive lines continue to pave ways to success. The early Super Bowl dark horse is looking to be a real threat at this point. Everybody picking the Broncos leading up into the season. I thought for a second they might be out of their mind. They're playing in the same division as the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the best teams in football over the last decade. Well, they're painting out to be an actual threat. Their key strengths are being the ones that matter the most at this time in the season. The pass coverage on their defense is commendable, their run game is demanding, and their quarterback play is the real deal. And something for Bronco fans to look forward to. Something, now that we've handled all of these divisions, for the Saints, they have something to look forward to, okay? Their second year out of Tyler Shuck next year is possibly going to give you some Bo Nix type effects. His ability to move in and out of the pocket is going to be his greatest strength. Hoping the Saints don't draft another quarterback in this upcoming draft here. They've drafted quarterbacks in seemingly every single year over the last 5 years since Drew Brees left the team. They were able to play spoiler thanks to Shuck's 2 huge touchdown runs, pinning the Bucs into a real battle in the NFC South. With the Panthers coming off a bye, and they're coming for the throne as well, the Bucs need to pile on some wins here, and they get a perfect chance tonight, okay? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers get a perfect chance to pile on some wins because they'll be facing the Falcons, who have lost to them early in the season, and then also their last 2 with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. But we can't just forget, right? We can't forget about Kirk Cousins. I was pretty high on the Falcons last week, considering it was going to be Cousins' first start, but it just didn't pan out to be an efficient offensive showing. They got completely smacked by the Seahawks. They ran into a buzzsaw when it comes to the Seahawks defense. But Tampa Bay hosts Atlanta tonight. They are 5.5-point favorites. It doesn't seem to be a game that is they're not going to shoot the lights out tonight, okay? My theory going into this portion of the season here is that Baker Mayfield's actually pretty banged up. I think he's actually really hurt at this point. He's been tossed around all season. He hasn't had that great of a performance from his offensive line. Over the last few weeks, he hasn't been able to find Emeka Egbuka with the deep ball. He hasn't been able to find Chris Godwin. He hasn't been able to find Mike Evans because he hasn't been playing. But tonight, on Thursday night, Mike Evans is back, baby. Not only is Mike Evans back, but Drake London is also down for the count. He won't be playing in this game for Atlanta, and I think that poses a big problem for the Falcons in their offense, because that means they have one weapon left, and that's Bijan Robinson. It reminds me of the days when Julio Jones was the only player the Falcons had. Now, granted, they had Matt Ryan throwing him the ball, and they had a great connection. They also had the Freeman boys in the backfield who were able to cut up the field any times that they needed to. Who was that one guy? Was it Jaquise Rogers? I forget their Super Bowl season. They had a phenomenal young running back who was able to just cut up the field, and he was very quick and elusive, but right now they have Bijan Robinson. Kyle Pitts, I guess, is somebody that they could throw the ball to, but I think Tampa Bay is going to have that covered. If we look over at the injury report here, if I can get one, if we go through teams, Buccaneers, let's see what we got here. We got a depth chart. Oh, sorry, I just passed it. Injuries. Tonight, Mike Evans will be playing. They have a safety on injured reserve, but really no notable names here. Kalijah Cansey won't be playing. But right now, I think the Buccaneers are in a prime spot for a get-back win, and I think it's the position where they need it. Okay, the Buccaneers are neck and neck with the Carolina Panthers here in the season, in the NFC South standings. And if they want a chance to get to the playoffs again, they're going to have to push through this. Baker Mayfield is going to have to push through this 2,700-yard performance of a season. He's going to have to add on a ton of yards, and I think tonight is a good chance for them to not throw the ball, but run the ball, use play action, get Baker Mayfield moving, rolling out of the pocket, and finding Emeka Egbuka where he hasn't found him in the last few weeks. But I think they're going to be successful. Or will history strike again? Because the last time Kirk Cousins played against this Tampa Bay defense, he went for 4 touchdowns and a ton of yards. So is it going to be a Kirk get-back game? Is it going to be a Buccaneers get-back game? I got to go with the franchise. If you look at the coaching, both of these coaches are kind of in questionable positions. Even though the Buccaneers have won many division titles in a row, there's still questions looming all about Todd Bowles. Raheem Morris, however, in his second year, not panning out to be the coach that he was sought out to be, and you find him on the hot seat here. He's going to have to pile on some wins. They have no hopes at winning the division, but they do have a chance of playing spoiler. I just don't think that the Buccaneers let it happen tonight. I think the Buccaneers win. I think they win by a touchdown. I think it's going to be a pretty grimy, gritty game, probably a 24-13 type of game, and we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking the Thursday Night Football win. That pick is for you, for you, the people on TikTok Live. I'll let you know here on the podcast on Sunday. If you're ever curious, or if you're ever wondering what my Thursday Night Football pick is, you can find it on TikTok Live. As I'm recording the podcast, I will go live and do the first portion of the show here. So the Thursday Night pick can be included in the record. It can be included. You can all feel included in what's going on. Find me on TikTok at bookmarkswbump, and that's it for the live show. Now, moving on. Oh, hey, whoa, hey, yeah. Oh, hey, come on. Pretty sick. I earned 4 cents during that live. But it's not about the money. It's about the love of ball. So let's move on through the slate here where we have Cleveland and Chicago facing off. Chicago's pissed off that they lost to the Packers last week. That's 100% fact. And even with a quarterback throwing for 360 yards, the Cleveland Browns just could not get it done. So I'm going to move forward with the Chicago Bears taking a win at home in a get-back spot and fighting to hang on to a playoff spot. I think the NFC North has a ton of potential. I think we see a world where the Lions, Packers, and Bears, oh my, all make it into the playoffs, and that division is going to be dominant for years moving forward. Then you have a division, and another North division face-off between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore is favored in that game. I don't see it that way. I truly don't. The Bengals offense has proven to be efficient over the last few weeks, specifically last week where they did put up over 30 points against the Bills. It was their defense that let them down. The Ravens have had some offensive hiccups over the last few weeks, and so I have to go with the hot offense, and that's going to be Cincinnati. Cincinnati gets a shocking win at home, and shocking not just because they're beating a division rival, not just because of the records where they're standing at right now, but because the Ravens really, really need this. I unfortunately don't see a world where they get it. A team that needs it and will get it is the Chargers, facing off against Kansas City in Kansas City. Their defense, the Chargers' defense is good. It wasn't just Jalen Hurts making mistakes last week. It was the defense being in the right spot. Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, I can't say they play the same style of ball. I can't say that they're similar quarterbacks, but I do see a world where the Chargers get after Mahomes and kind of make it difficult because their wide receivers the wide receivers in Kansas City aren't getting enough separation to help Patrick Mahomes move the ball. And the Chargers' run defense is pretty solid. So let's go with the Los Angeles Chargers over the Chiefs. And then you have just a monumental game here for the division. For the AFC East crown, if New England wins this game against Buffalo on Sunday, they win the AFC East. That's a hat and a t-shirt game. I should be there. The New England Patriots are going to win. They're going to beat Buffalo. Buffalo last week, yeah, they turned it on late there, but I think if they dig themselves, they don't even have to dig themselves a hole. I think the Patriots just do what they have to do to get it done. The energy in New England is different with Mike Vrabel at the helm, and Pats win. Let's keep it moving there. You have an NFC East showdown between the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders. I'm not sure if the Commanders are walking out. If they're rolling out Jaden Daniels or Marcus Mariota. Jaden Daniels ruled out Sunday against the Giants. The Commanders managed to put up 0 points against the Vikings last week. I think the Giants are coming in fresh off a bye. The Giants' offense, even without their stars, even without Malik Neighbors and Cam Scatterbo, I do see the ball getting moved down the field. I do see Jackson Dart playing well. I do see a world where Jackson Dart carves up the Commanders and they win, and that's my pick for that game. We're going with the New York Giants. Philadelphia in a get-back spot against Las Vegas. What can I even say about this game? This is just a this should happen game. The Philadelphia Eagles should beat the Las Vegas Raiders, and that's why I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. Do I trust the Eagles? Absolutely not. They look like a different team every single week, but their defense did come to play last week. They flew around. They sacked Justin Herbert 7 times in that game where they lost last week, and I don't think Geno Smith is playing for the Raiders. He was ruled out of last week's game, and optimism is not as high as Carroll's. His right shoulder did not practice on Wednesday and considered day-to-day. Backup Kenny Pickett will get first-team reps. So there you go. You got a little bit of a revenge game for Kenny Pickett, but not really. Kenny Pickett, Super Bowl winning quarterback, will probably be on his back against the players that he practiced against last year. And then we move on to a game, a J game. Shout out to all the J's. A triple J game. It could be triple gay, but I hope not. A triple J game, the Jets against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars are very hot right now. They're favored by 13.5. Do I think they win by 2 touchdowns personally? No, but I do think they get a win in Jacksonville, in Duval. Another AFC South team that's got to get a win here is the Houston Texans taking on the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals showed you last week they have absolutely no defense, so this should be a good game for the offensive side of the ball for the Texans to get some reps. Let's see C.J. Stroud make some strides here. Let's see Jacoby Brissett end up on his back a ton. I mean, that pass rush from Houston with Shelby Rankins and Will Anderson, I mean, they are just smothering quarterbacks week in and week out. And then in the back, you have Derek Stingley just absolutely plastering wide receivers. He should have a field day with Marvin Harrison Jr. Green Bay and Denver. Now, this is a tough game. This is a game that you got to think about. Because these are 2 great teams right now. The way Denver is rolling, super efficient, Bo Nix being very decisive, not making the same amount or the same caliber of mistakes as Jordan Love should give Denver the edge, but does it in this game? I don't think so. I think the Packers know in their division their back is against the wall, and they need to win every game. Denver is not in the same situation, though. Denver is 11-2. The next closest team is 7-4 or 8-4 in the Los Angeles Chargers. I just think that this is a game where Denver might go into it a little bit comfortable after winning 10 in a row, and the Packers kind of squash that comfortability and make the Broncos bounce back next week with a bit more effort. Detroit and Los Angeles. Now you have the quarterbacks switching places, facing off yet again. The Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions made a monumental trade years ago that changed both franchises forever. The Rams would go on to win a Super Bowl, and Detroit would go on to win games season in and season out. the Rams defense is just, it's not talked about enough because of how high powered and how effective their offense is. And I think that's something that is kind of, it's overlooked as far as the completeness of the Rams team. I think going into the playoff time of the season, that the Rams are actually a real threat yet again, just as they were in 2021. So give me the Los Angeles Rams and their defense kind of handling what Detroit has to offer this week. Then you move on to Carolina and New Orleans. Carolina needs to pounce here. Okay, these Panthers need to pounce all over the Saints. Now, the Saints did just play spoiler to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I put the Panthers defense just a notch above the Buccaneers, where the Buccaneers are laden with veterans all over the secondary. Carolina is young and hungry and pushing and bubbling, and I think this is a game that they can pull off inside of the division and help inch them closer to that NFC South division title that's been all too elusive since Cam Newton was running the quarterback position over there. You move on to another interdivision matchup between the Tennessee Titans and the San Francisco 49ers. The Titans were able to win in a shootout against the Browns last week. I think the 49ers bring a little bit of a difference. Well, when you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, when you have a guy like George Kittle, when you got guys out there like Juan Jennings, all of these players with an immense amount of experience, and then a wild card like Ricky Pearsall. I think the 49ers have a ton of weapons that they're able to unload on the Tennessee Titans defense, and Jeffrey Simmons is going to have a hard time holding that defense up. The Indianapolis Colts go to Seattle and play the Seahawks, probably the toughest defense in the league right now, with a 44-year-old quarterback, Phillip Rivers. Yes, I said that right. Phillip Rivers got signed by the Indianapolis Colts this week. He got signed on Tuesday, I believe, to help fill in that quarterback position after losing Daniel Jones. Part of the reason is because Phillip Rivers' high school team, their offense was the same exact offense that the Colts and Shane Steichen are running. Shane Steichen has history with Phillip Rivers. It'll be an easy transition as far as the offensive play calling goes, but it won't be an easy day for the offense at all. Will there be a breath of life? Could this be an upset? It absolutely could, but I'm going to go with the logic here that says that Seattle gets it done. Another team that has to get it done this week is Dallas. The Vikings can play spoiler to the NFC East. That's for certain. But I think that Dallas knows that they have a road to the playoffs. So if Dallas goes in to Jerry World and handles their visiting Vikings, I think that they have a good chance for the rest of the season. The Vikings have been so spotty. Last week, J.J. McCarthy played efficient. He threw 16 completions out of 23 passes for 160-something yards and 3 touchdowns. He had a almost perfect quarterback rating, whatever that means. But this Dallas defense is a little bit different than the Commanders, and I think Dallas gets it done on Sunday Night Football. And then you have Miami. Like I said, a hot team out of the AFC East going into Pittsburgh to battle with the Pittsburgh Steelers. What Miami is really good at right now is running the ball. What Pittsburgh is really bad at right now is stopping the run. Also, another note here is that TJ Watt is currently in the hospital right now. He was going through a procedure at the team facility, and then something happened with his lung. I don't know if it's punctured or if we can look into that here. TJ Watt, probably the number one star on Pittsburgh's defense. TJ Watt's lung injury occurred during treatment at the team facility Wednesday. Watt has been hospitalized since yesterday. He's having his lung evaluated. Is he listed on the injury report as out, doubtful, questionable? He's questionable. He didn't practice today. He's undergoing further evaluation on his lung after he was taken to a Pittsburgh hospital upon experiencing discomfort Wednesday at the team's facility. So hopefully TJ Watt can make it back for this game and put a breath of fresh air into this defense, which is absolutely going to need him against a team that has a massive ability to run here. And if he's not, it's all going to be in the veteran Aaron Rodgers' hands. And last week he played in the past, and I think that after beating the Ravens, this Pittsburgh team has to have some life brought into it. Before last week, I chose the Ravens against the Steelers. That might be a first double sneeze on the podcast, but we're going to let it through. Last week, I chose the Ravens over the Steelers because the Ravens felt like a team while the Steelers felt like they were falling apart. After last week, you see Pittsburgh as more of a team now, but are they happy because they're winning, or are they winning because they're happy? We will find out on Monday Night Football, where I think the home team wins. You have 22 home Monday Night Football appearances for the Pittsburgh Steelers that they have won in a row. Will Miami snap the streak, or will Pittsburgh snap the Dolphin streak? I think it's going to be Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh snapping that streak and really taking the AFC North by storm, giving Aaron Rodgers his one last playoff run, and helping all of the Pittsburgh faithful remain happy in that miserable, miserable city of the Three Rivers. And as we move forward, we will dive into a thread. I know it's been a few weeks since we dove into a thread, but I saw one here that I thought was really special because it's Nick Saban. We talked about coach speak before. We'll talk about coach speak again and again because a lot of my life philosophies, I feel, that help push me towards my goals or my success have been brought about through sports, whether it be disciplines that I've learned in sports, whether it be coaching, whether it be teamwork. No matter what it is, there's always some type of philosophy that I've stolen from a coach, and Nick Saban is one of the best that I've ever stolen from. I've talked about Nick Saban before, where you have fountains and you have vampires. You have people in your life, you have people in your environment that are fountains. They breathe energy into your life, they breathe energy into your goals, and they make things seem more possible. Meanwhile, you have vampires who are always sucking the life out of things and making you focus on the negatives. But aside from that, Nick Saban also taught us the 5 enemies of greatness. He warned us, greatness isn't given or taken. It's earned or lost by your mindset, actions, and systems. Nick Saban, the 5 enemies of greatness. If everybody doesn't buy into the same principles and values of the organization and the same high standard, you're never going to be successful. Nick Saban says, the number one of these 5 enemies is entitlement. Success makes people think they deserve more without doing more. Entitlement is the belief that past effort guarantees future rewards. Greatness only belongs to those who earn it again, every day. You get up every day, you're entitled to nothing. Nothing is acceptable but your best. That's a quote from Nick Saban. Now, this reminds me of what I talked about last week, where you have to believe in the process. It's not about the outcome. You can't be outcome oriented, because if you don't get the outcome you want, the outcome you feel entitled to, you'll feel cheated, when in reality you cheated yourself, because the only way you don't reach that outcome is by not taking the proper steps and not following the process as it should be. Number 2 of these 5 enemies of greatness is a lack of discipline. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. Without discipline, talent becomes wasted potential. The smallest lapses, like being late, cutting corners, losing focus, compound into failure. These little pieces of comfort you give yourself from time to time, they all add up. Everything all adds up. All of the hard work adds up the same way that all of the cutting of the corners does. Run hard when it gets hard to run. Everything starts with discipline. Practice until you can't get it wrong, not just until you get it right. If you don't respect it enough to do it right, when it's the right way to do it, how can you be trusted in a game? Another quote from Nick Saban there. Let's go over that again. Run hard when it gets hard to run. Everything starts with discipline. Practice until you can't get it wrong, not just until you get it right. If I can relate that to one thing, it would be recording music. Okay, if you go back through my SoundCloud and listen to all the songs that I've ever made, do you think that was my first take? That was practice and practice and practice. You have to continue to practice until you can get through the entire verse before you even think about recording 4 bars. Why? Because you want to get it right. You don't just want to trudge your way through. You don't want to put out a sloppy product. You have to get it right. You practice, and I love that. Practice until you can't get it wrong, not just until you get it right. People hit their goal and they go, I've done it. In reality, you haven't. If it's something that has to be repeatable, you have to be able to repeat that thing the right way every time. You can't afford mistakes, especially when it comes to running a football program like Alabama from 2007 on. That is so poignant to me. If you don't respect it enough to do it right when it's the right way to do it, how can you be trusted in a game? And that's true. You can't just say, "Oh, it'll happen when it happens." No, it has to be. It has to be trustable. You have to have respect for the action that you're taking. It reminds me of a coach speak saying where how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's the truth. If you half-ass some things, you'll find that you can skate by half-assing a lot of things. And then before you know it, you're half-assing everything and you only got half an ass left. The number three enemy of greatness is circumstances over vision. Average performers let circumstances dictate their attitude and effort. Great performers stick to their vision no matter the conditions. Your standard doesn't change based on who you play, what the score is, or how you feel. If you want to be good, you don't really have a lot of choices because it takes what it takes. Another wonderful Nick Saban quote. Average performers let circumstances dictate their attitude and effort, and great performers stick to their vision. You have a goal. You have a goal in mind. And you know what it takes to get there. You're going to get rattled by obstacles no matter what it is that you do in life. And I went on and on about that last week, so I won't do that today. But just believe it to be true. When I'm training for races, do you think I take a day off because it rains? It doesn't matter. It might rain on race day. What am I going to do? Cancel the race? No. You have to just go out there and push it and understand that what you're doing is serving a bigger purpose. The number four enemy of greatness is self-pity. The fastest way to lose is to feel sorry for yourself. Self-pity kills resilience and responsibility. Saban's teams were taught no excuses, no complaints, just the next play. Everybody's got to be responsible for their own self-determination. If you think that not confronting people who don't do the right things is helping your organization, you're absolutely wrong. If you think that not confronting people who don't do the right things is helping your organization, you're absolutely wrong. And you can transfer this directly from sports into management at your job. When you look around at people who aren't doing practically anything, we'll just go with that. If they're not doing anything and they're not getting called out for it, if they're doing things wrong and not getting called out for it, what do you think it does to the next person who goes above and beyond and puts in an extreme amount of effort? You kill morale. And morale is one great way to kill a team. You have to be responsible for your own self-determination. You can't feel sorry for yourself. You can't feel down and out. You can't feel down on your luck because there is no luck. There just is. There just is. There's a goal in front of you, and there's steps that you have to make to take it. If there's an obstacle in your way, get around it or get through it. Number 5, the last enemy of greatness would be complacency. The moment you think you've arrived, you start to decline. This is absolutely true. Complacency turns champions into ex-champions. Hunger and humility must outlast success if you want to stay great. And complacency creates a blatant disregard for doing what is right. What is right is typically what's hard. It's hard to do things the right way. It's difficult to do things the right way. And even if you do things the right way, you may not find yourself succeeding in that avenue. You may just find yourself running into the wrong person, running into the wrong situation, However, you can still look back on it and go, I did everything I could. I did everything I could, and I did it the right way. I performed well. I performed like a champion. Complacency does turn champions into ex-champions because they expect to win. They believe to get that in. They start to get that entitlement out of life. You get that entitlement when you feel like you deserve something, even though you still have to work for it. Just because you won the Super Bowl last season, I'm not talking to the Philadelphia Eagles, but this could translate to them. Just because you won the Super Bowl in the last offseason and you go into it with the same exact team, it doesn't mean that the same outcome is going to take place. You have to take not the same exact steps because they will become predictable, but you have to take steps. You have to take an approach towards every game like you've never won before in your life. You go into work every day like you've never been there before. You perform to the best of your abilities. You go out into a race, you perform to the best of your abilities. Just because you won the last race you ran doesn't mean you can go into the next one 5 weeks later without training and perform just as well. You have to push it. Success is something that's day in and day out. And it's stressful, it's tough, it's hard, but it's worth it because it's fulfilling. At the end of the day, it helps lead you to the resources that you need in order to feel successful or in order to live the lifestyle or live the life that you want. It's not all just going to happen overnight for you. You have to put in the effort. You have to put in the work day in and day out. And I think that's something that's lost from time to time. I think that the aptitude it takes to put in effort every day, it's not normal. And I had a situation like that today where I was called out as a superhuman. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because it actually happened. And I'm saying that because it made me feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm not a superhuman. I'm really not. There's nothing about me that makes me any better, stronger, faster than any man aside from effort. I'm just there and willing to put in the effort, willing to soak up as much information as I can, willing to absorb and move forward and continue to press and ask questions and do things the right way, because that's what it takes to be successful. I'm not fueled by people telling me I'm superhuman or people telling me I'm a dog or a psycho or a sicko. I'm fueled by success, and I'm fueled by the steps I take every day to be successful. That is where real fulfillment in life comes from. It doesn't come from the screen. It doesn't come from the compliments. It comes from the work. I don't feel any better or worse about my day or about my performance based on what somebody else is saying to me. If I know in my heart that I gave it all that I did, I'm fulfilled. And I believe I believe those are the steps. I believe that is what it takes to feel fulfilled, is just by doing anything the way you do everything and doing everything the way you do anything. Try to translate that into your life this week. Try to find a way to translate your bad habits into good habits. Find the areas in your life where you feel yourself slacking off and put the same amount of effort into that as you do into the thing that you care most about, and see how fulfilled you'll feel at the end of the day. See how that draining feeling that you may feel from just trudging through something in your life, if you apply that effort, if you apply that principle into that area, let me know how it does for you. Let me know how that makes you feel. Let me know if that fulfillment comes through, because I believe it does. Why do I believe it? Because I feel it every single day. With that being said, please let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like, subscribe. Find me on social media, on Twitter at BumpOfTTS. You can find me on TikTok, bookmarkswbump, where I go live every week when I'm recording the podcast and leave my Thursday night football pick there for you then, because you won't see this till Sunday at 4 a.m. That is Bookmarks with Bump. As always, it's all love. God bless. I always do that.
I'm in that rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm in that rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.